Hello and welcome to Gritty Reboot, the show where we make fun of TV's dark side. I'm Hunter Markham, back from an exciting trip to Montreal for the hardest maple syrup-based drugs I could find. With me is co-host Sarah Dunaway.
Hi, Hunter. Now that you're a drug baron, I was hoping you might have shaved your head completely and started wearing terrible red wigs, and I'm very pleased that you have.
It's important to keep up appearances in the business. The other drug lords wouldn't respect me if I didn't have a ridiculously fake wig like the rest of them. Also, here's our third co-host, Kevin James. Kevin, how are you?
I ain't saying. I'm no snitch.
This is... Okay, we're already getting to one of my favorite parts of this episode, which is FP's commitment to not squealing on people that are innocent.
It's admirable. It's just interesting to learn he has principles.
We did it, though. We watched the entire first season of Riverdale.
People said we couldn't. No, wait, they said we shouldn't and that we were crazy.
Yeah.
Sarah, you watched the first season of Riverdale now twice.
Wow, rub it in, why don't you?
This may explain why you're feeling a little under the weather today.
Absolutely.
But we're going to try and drag you on, and this was a heck of an episode. That's all I'm going to say. No judgment there.
It was a real barn, or I guess more accurately, Thornhill burner.
Oh, okay, so the title of this was The Sweet Hereafter?
Mm-hmm.
1997 drama that I haven't seen. That's probably something about a bus crash. The only 1997 film about a bus that I know is Speed, which might not be 1997.
That's what they should have named this episode. But yeah, apparently this one's about like a school bus crashing and a bunch of kids dying horribly. So, really fun, upbeat movie to reference.
Why not?
Sarah just nodded vigorously at our microphone.
I do this for you, the listening audience.
Sarah, since you love this title so much, does that mean that you wouldn't change it?
Oh, no, I would not change it whatsoever. I also did, of course, forget, once again, to come up with alternate titles. So this title's perfect and we should never change it.
I went with Never Been Frisked. Because just with all the metal detectors at Southside High, I felt like that was a real coming-of-age moment for Jughead as a journalist.
That's a good one. I had Trapped Under Ice, which happens to Cheryl, and it's the best Baltimore hardcore band. I'm wearing a Trapped Under Ice t-shirt right now, and I just wanted to talk about them, because it's like a running joke among several of my friends that I like terrible bands, and Trapped Under Ice is one of them. And then the only other title I had is Can You See the Sunset from the South Side Pretty Good? Which is an outsider's reference, even though I've never seen the movie.
Man, we are not good on the film seeing so far.
I only know that quote because it's also like used in a sound clip before a song.
All right, I came up with one. Gangs of New York.
That's fair. Yeah.
Simple.
That's better than bus crash movie reference.
Yeah. So should we play our culture references? There were a lot this time around.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of them. I really hope you actually got them all.
I'm not totally sure I did, but I caught like 14.
Life's not an Agatha Christie novel. It's a lot messier. And he would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for a group of pesky kids who uncovered the truth.
Is your father, Veronica? Not the Godfather?
It's exactly the way things were before, pretending to be normal and perfect, when really we're like a Greek suburban tragedy.
Kevin, relax. This isn't The Wire.
You can feel it. Something wicked this way comes.
Which reminds me, I loved your article. And at the risk of us failing the Bechdel test, are you legitimately cool with Archie and me? Swear in the September issue?
And on my copy of Forever by Judy Blume.
The entire multiverse telling me that I don't belong here.
Positively Dickensian. I love a long-lost brother. A blonde Adonis, no doubt. Let's go. I'll give you a ride to the Jubilee. Already got one with Archie. Lady Macbeth. To Archie Andrews, who saved the cheerleader and saved the town.
You know what? Actually, I think that was Betty's speech.
She's no doubt sleeping soundly in the arms of Prince Valium.
Yeah. Whoo boy.
That was a journey. Okay, you got a bunch of these. There was some I didn't catch till like a second or third watch, so it's like I wonder if Kevin captured all of them.
Which ones did I miss?
I don't think you missed any of them. I was just like, it took me until the second watch to get Prince Valium and remember like the Prince Valiant Sunday comic,
Yeah.
which I think I'm the only person born after 1950 who's read that.
I'll be honest, most of the time I just clip things that sound like they might be references and then double check later. So I originally clipped the Sweet Hereafter speech that Penelope gives, and then I looked and was like, oh, I guess this isn't actually anything, even though it sounds like it should be.
Okay. I mean, there was a lot of weird ones here. I don't know what the September issue is that Veronica talks about.
That's a very famous issue of Vogue. It's also the name of a documentary about Vogue's editor-in-chief, Anna Wintour.
Okay.
I think I'm saying that right.
You know, you could be saying it right, you could be saying it wrong, and I'd be
I
none
thought
the
it was
wiser.
winter, but I don't really know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I've only seen this in print.
They have multiple Macbeth references, which is the theme of this episode, with the Something Wicked This Way Comes and Lady Macbeth.
Yeah, who is objectively the best Macbeth.
Oh, for sure.
So Hermione kind of got a compliment.
Yeah. I also felt like the Greek suburban tragedy reference might have been a Virgin Suicides reference. But that's kind of maybe that was just me.
Yeah, it might be a stretch. I clipped it either way just because it seemed probable.
But I mean, that is a book and movie in which a Greek chorus tells the story. Well, it's Greek choral style narration, and it's suburban, and there's girls killing themselves, which was also a theme in this episode.
Yeah, good book.
Great
Wow,
book.
That is a really good find, because I'm not familiar with the book or movie. I was just over here like, oh, when is Betty gonna murder her father and marry her mother?
I do want to point out that the "and he would have gotten away with it too" is almost a Scooby-Doo reference, but they don't stick the landing because it's if it weren't for those meddling kids, and he says, if it weren't for a couple of pesky kids, like, no, how did you fail at the last second?
It bothered me, like, it's like when you hear the first half of, like, a song, or, like, the first half of a melody, and it never resolves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Jughead, stop doing this.
I also liked, so Kevin Keller says something about, like, more drugs coming in, and Jughead goes, relax, Kevin, it's not The Wire. And that was just very important to me. I'm glad that Jughead pointed out the show is not most critically acclaimed TV show of all time, The Wire. I was really in danger of believing Riverdale was that.
I haven't seen The Wire, but it seems like, from what I've heard, it's way more serious and has way more compelling characters and narrative than this.
Yeah, I would say it is a show of a slightly higher caliber. I know it's a really tough thing for me to say, but
I've tried it a few times. I've never been able to get past the pilot because it's just so dense. Like, it's almost impossible for me to process. Like, you gotta approach it like the same way you would like a book in a literature class almost, apparently.
So kind of like Riverdale.
I feel like you were just overthinking it.
Maybe.
I mean, it's a cop show. I mean, it's a very good cop show, but it's, you know.
But so much is happening, and it's also played so subtly, and it's like, who is everything?
True.
Okay, so the Bechdel test, that was awful. Early candidate for cringiest line.
Bested by my cringiest line, the thing where Veronica says it's positively Dickensian.
Yes. The Forever by Judy Blume, once I had the chance to look that up, I figured that was a pretty good reference. It's it's a book about coming of age and figuring out, like, when to have sex, and it seems like that's a pretty good reference to drop in this episode where everyone finally almost does it.
Yeah. That's a classic. Like, it's, how a lot of people first read about sex is Judy Blume's Forever.
Makes sense. It sounds like a good one, and I was reading the synopsis, like, this actually sounds like pretty compelling.
I'm gonna change my suggestions for titles and change it to Are You There, God? It's Me, Betty.
Great.
The multiverse one might be a stretch, but since Archie is originally in Archie Comics, I don't know if we're all familiar with how comics always have multiverses.
Yes. Which they've done in Archie Comics as well. I think Life with Archie ended where there was like a split universe, and one where he married Veronica and the other where he married Betty.
Oh yes, that was a big deal like 5 years ago, wasn't it?
Yes, that's the one. That's what leads up to the death of Archie in the comic books run.
Speaking of Death of Archie, there's actually a visual reference to the death of Archie in the final shot of this episode.
Oh my gosh, as soon as you said it, it all made sense, yeah. How Archie's holding Luke Perry is a lot like the cover art when Betty and Veronica are holding a shot and dying Archie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Wow. This opened my eyes. Thank you so much for doing this homework, Kevin.
It was a lot. I had felt like I wasn't being useful the past few weeks when there were like 3 or 4 culture references, but they came back with a bang.
Oh, the other secret one is whenever Betty shows her article that's on a Blue and Gold website to Veronica, if you zoom in on the text, she's referencing George Orwell's 1984. So there you go.
Oh, that's subtle. Yeah, I missed that.
I was trying to read her article, but like only one column was in focus, and all I could glean was she was talking about book sales for George Orwell, and I don't know why she was talking about that in an article about F.P. Jones. I think they just threw some random text there.
Well, now that we've spent approximately 3 hours on the cultural references,
Jesus, yeah.
Should we get to the actual episode?
Oh, right, there was an episode.
Yeah, there was some plot attached to these references. Did I say attached? Attached.
Okay, where do you want to start?
Let's start at the end of the episode. Mix it up.
Oh, yeah, let's do some Memento style. So at the end, Luke Perry gets shot.
And it's referred to as like, you know, an act of violence that was anything but random, even though it seems exactly like a random act of violence. What?
No. This is the moment the town's innocence died, not the moment that a son was shot by his father to cover up their drug empire. It was a burglary gone wrong. That's the moment the innocence died.
They're trying to imply that it was Hiram Lodge who is like, you were banging my wife, and I don't like that you're also my partner in this Sodale land deal, so I'm going to have you killed in like a false holdup. I don't know. Like, it was a weird ending. Are we really just going to talk about the ending?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. So yeah, it ends with Luke Perry getting shot, and the ending narration is how the town's innocence died.
All right. I guess we should go back to the beginning now, though.
Let's go back to the start.
They actually open on the same cliffhanger joke we made last episode, and I legitimately believe that they didn't realize what a gold mine they were sitting on until after the previous episode was done being edited. Like, oh shoot, we need to put this in now.
It was the ultimate cliffhanger.
Yeah, I mean, that was very prescient of you, Sarah, to make that joke, and I feel like you did it a lot better than they did.
I did not remember that Jughead makes that joke, but I mean, I'm sure somewhere in the back of my mind that helped spark the idea.
Great minds think alike, and you are the Jughead of the group, so I feel like
Correct.
you and him would have come to the same conclusion anyway.
Totally. Makes sense.
So what's their deal with Montreal?
Oh, the famous Montreal heroine. You don't know about it?
I was in Montreal this week.
Yeah, getting heroin. We've covered this.
No one offered me heroin. Everyone there speaks French. And then earlier in this series, whenever the people are trashing Luke Perry's construction site, there's some other reference to like, oh yeah, they're from like up in Montreal. So this series has a vendetta against French Canadians.
Also, Montreal is like not... I mean, they're supposed to be downstate if they're consistent with the comics. And I mean, from where I lived in New York State, Montreal was not that far, but from where they are, it's kind of a long hike.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be easier to get their drugs from New York City.
Yeah, for sure.
Avoid getting border crossing agents involved.
Absolutely. Both, I mean, New York, Boston, and Philly would all be easier.
Absolutely. Especially, yeah, they're supposed to be just outside of New York City, like south of the Hudson Valley. So, you know, they really went after the French Canadians a lot. And then Alice is co-opening this episode with Jughead in the narration as she writes for the Riverdale Register again.
It was so weird that she just like was like, I'm the narrator too now.
Okay, the thing is she's writing this article and she's like, Jason Blossom was abducted by a Southside serpent named Mustang. That probably wasn't his real name. If you were any kind of reporter, you would have been like, this guy's actual name, known as Mustang.
No, he was actually named Mustang by his parents.
It was really strange. And then They say that like Cliff killed Mustang to cover his track marks. I mean tracks.
This goes back to what we were talking about last episode. It seems like Mustang was the one who did all of the kidnapping of Jason. We find out that's true. Why was FP brought in to be framed when he had nothing to do with anything?
Just for funsies.
Yeah.
I also liked that Jason, it's made clear to us that Jason opposed his dad's drug running, and he was horrified that his dad was involved in that. And so to get away from his dad, he got involved with drug running.
Oh my god.
Makes perfect sense.
I didn't think of that. That's absolutely right. He finds out his dad is like a drug lord, and he's like, well, I gotta run away. So he goes to the Southside Serpents and has to be set up with drugs to transport for money.
Well, you have to remember, the Southside Serpents don't deal hard stuff, just dime bags of weed. Which is a little strange since we were told in a previous episode that the Twilight Drive-In was a crack den that they ran.
Yeah, nothing hangs together in this town. I chose to believe the FP was being facetious about that and the Southside Serpents traffic and all manner of things, but that he just doesn't want to be a snitch.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yes.
That makes a lot more sense.
If they really are a gang that only sells dime bags of weed, that's the lamest gang I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it's like Jay and Silent Bob outside of the like quick stop.
Yeah.
At that point, and they seem a little bit more intimidating than that. I think we can jump ahead maybe to FP's in prison getting questioned by Sheriff Keller while Jughead's inexplicably standing around in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Right after FP says, oh, we just sell dime bags of weed, he says, and I'm no snitch, which pretty much is like, so I can't believe anything that you said or denied.
It's a weird scene, but it is kind of admirable that FP does want to stick up for his crew, and he has like some lines later about like, they'll come through for me, just you watch. He actually predicts a lot of the end of the episode in like that scene where he's talking to Archie.
Not snitching is a virtue, so I'm on board with FP in this. He's doing good here.
But
I
the
mean,
downside,
as we saw, like Archie tries to get him to snitch, and later he does get some stitch. I mean, that hand got messed up.
though the downside
own fault.
is that because he's not going to snitch, he's likely to get 20 years in prison, and that Jughead is going to become a ward of the state.
Yeah, none of that is how social services works.
I figured, but you're more involved with that stuff than me, so.
I was like, just watching and just going, oh, none of this is remotely accurate, but okay. I can't even begin to get into how inaccurate it is because, I mean, it's just completely made up.
It felt wrong where they're just like, I'm your caseworker. We place you with the foster family. Yeah, you got to move out. And I was like, this doesn't seem correct, but I don't have any sort of basis to really poke holes in their theory.
No, I mean, they don't just show up at a house and say, oh, I've already got a family for you without meeting the kid. It doesn't move that quickly. He would have been placed in a short-term placement of some sort. There would have, none of this makes sense.
Though the one thing that does make sense is Luke Perry had a DUI. So he...
Yeah, so the social worker's hanging out at the Andrews home and says, oh, Jughead can't live here. He has to move in with a foster family on the south side and go to Southside High. Luke Perry can't foster him because he's apparently got a DUI, which we've never heard any mention of, and we've seen him drink like one beer on this show.
He's a lightweight. That was the time.
Also, he's got cash flow problems, which is like, sure, but he could just sell his gorgeous Craftsman home and have plenty of money.
He also is offered to get bought out by Hermione. He's like, no, that doesn't sound like a good offer.
Yeah, screw Jughead.
Can we talk about this side plot since, honestly, to me, it was kind of small? This Luke Perry thing that goes on is... And we can actually wrap up the whole Lodge stuff that we always hate talking about, which is...
Yes, please. Let's get that out of the way.
Veronica and Hermione are bickering because Hiram Lodge is going to get out of jail soon and come back home. And Hermione's like, well, he's not going to want to work with Luke Perry because Luke Perry used to be fucking me. And so we're going to try and buy him out. Luke Perry, for inexplicable reasons, refuses to be bought out of this deal, take the money, solve his cash flow problems, and instantly be able to take another construction job, which seems like he'd be making money hand over fist. He just says no.
It's confusing, especially because the reason he wanted this job initially was to pay for his crew. His crew is still gone. Apparently, like, they were prepaid in advance by Cliff Blossom for the 2 years because they haven't come back.
See, that would have been a good moment where the crew came crawling back and they're like, well, that guy, kicked the bucket and he's also a drug lord, so can we work here again?
And then it would make sense why he's not willing to sell off the job.
Yeah, but Hermione has already gone out and hired new people, fired the serpents who were working for them, and Luke Perry's upset about that. He could just take the money, take another job, rehire the people who were loyal to him, and it seems like that serves his best interests as well as his former employees.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he, for no reason that I could really tease out, even on multiple watches, he says, no, I'm not going to sell out of this deal, and I guess that's why he gets shot at the end.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I paid no attention to this.
I
plot
do.
line, because it's so boring to me.
I do want to point out that Hermione at one point suggests that Veronica sexually extort Archie in order to, like, convince Fred to sell. And it reminded me of a scene from a few episodes ago. So, Hunter, I put together some clips to show just how unequivocally good Hermione Lodge is.
And my mother, is she?
Unequivocally good.
Maybe you could talk to Archie. Maybe he could convince Fred to sell? Yeah, sure, Mom, no problem. I'll just sexually manipulate Archie into doing my bidding. As long as you're in control.
Smithers, you infernal ninny!
Smithers should be fired.
It turns out getting advice about your mother from a random side extra who's had 3 total lines, it wasn't accurate. Who knew?
Well, I mean, to be fair, Smithers loves it when she sexually exploits him. So he just has a different perspective.
I just imagine Veronica in this scene like, oh, you want me to just try and sexually manipulate Archie to get what I... Oh my god, that would work every single time. She could get anything from that kid.
Yeah, just think of all the Mont Blancs she'll have.
She could get like a kidney. Oh my god.
So now that we've covered that awful plot, let's go to the Coopers.
Oh, well, yeah, what's happening with them in this episode? I just have some note here about Betty still clenching and...
Yeah, okay, that was so weird to me. So everything returns to normal in the Cooper house, which has made Betty's, like, self-hand-mauling so much worse than it ever has been before. And it's weird because it's just so not consistent when it rears its head. Family falling apart, no hand-clawing. Family gets back together and is patching things up, hardest hand-clawing yet.
I don't know. She explains it. She's like, they're pretending that everything's fine and it's really freaking me out.
I know she explains it. I just think it's weird. Like, when they were falling apart, she wasn't doing this. When they're trying to put things back there, she's like, the stress.
I don't know. I guess it's just like being in that environment where she feels uncomfortable and repressed and she can't just put on a black wig and be herself because everyone's pretending to be something else that really gets to her.
Totally.
Now when I tell everyone I'm Polly, Polly will be there to second guess me.
But yeah, so she's like upset about that. She talks to Archie about how it's a Greek tragedy, which we had that clip.
I spent so long trying to think of a good Greek suburban tragedy pun, and sadly I came up short.
No, yeah, I failed too. I was trying to somehow like merge Oedipus and cul-de-sac into a pun or a joke.
Yeah.
But no, I got nothing there. The other plot is like Veronica and Archie are dating now, I guess, but Archie seems like he's acting really weird and talking to Betty and being like, oh, I always thought we would be together.
Yeah, Archie is on some bullshit in this episode.
Oh, yeah. I was very upset with him. Just like, you don't even want her, Archie. Back off.
He just wants what he can't have or like what
Yes.
someone else has.
Yeah. Veronica insists on coming clean about their dating to Betty.
Archie, now that we're not actively investigating a murder case, we need to come clean to Betty about her did.
In another cringy line where she calls their dating a pas de deux, which, whoa.
Maybe she took a trip to Montreal and she picked up some French.
I knew that she meant that they were hooking up, but I was really hoping it's that they were going to perform a ballet number at the Jubilee.
Yeah, and everyone's being so weird, asking, like, do you think Betty will freak out about this? It's been, like, 2 whole weeks in universe. She's completely over Archie.
No, that was kind of my thing where I'm like, this seems like old news. Like, Betty's super over him. And then I realized, no, like, since episode 1, we've probably only progressed, like, 2-3 weeks. We're not even halfway through the semester.
Right. It's like late September.
It's one of those weird things where just because of how long we've been on the episodes versus how much time has passed in the universe, it's so hard to figure out what people would be into this.
The whole thing was weird of, like, what if Betty gets upset? She's dating Jughead now. I just don't... To her Betty's credit, she doesn't give a fig's rig that...
Right, she's completely normal about it. She's like, guys, we covered this like 3 episodes ago. Remember Jughead's part? I'm like, I love you, not Archie.
Who knows, but Archie is just like complete trash in this, where he's giving Betty wistful looks and like trying to bring up these things, and she just keeps cutting him off or seeming to ignore him.
Yeah, she does not put up with any of his shit, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Good for her.
And Veronica announces that she and Archie are dating, like, in this weird lunch scene where Veronica stands up to say it like she's called upon in class or it's Dead Poets Society.
I am Spartacus. I mean, I'm dating your friend.
I always stand up to announce that I've kissed somebody. It's a big deal.
It's also weird because the scene was apparently filmed on a carousel.
Is that the one where it keeps just spinning?
Oh, spins a lot.
Yes. It's, oh my god. It was apparent, like, I feel like it was done to try and ramp up the intensity and drama, but it's playing such chipper, upbeat music under it that it just doesn't work.
Also, we know there's not going to be any drama. We know that Betty doesn't care.
Yeah. If she had some sort of, like, moment of self-doubt that we saw, that would make it a little different, but it's pretty obvious that she just does not give a shit. And in this episode, she and Jughead get closer than ever. I guess the other thing that happens is somehow Betty and Archie are handpicked by Mayor McCoy and Principal Weatherby to be guests or speakers of honor at the town's 75th anniversary.
Yes.
Which, first of all, if this town is only 75 years old, it's like the newest town in the state of New York. That's incredibly young for city in New York.
I think it's supposed to be a reference to when Archie Comics was originally published.
Right, because it's 1942. I did the math, and I was like, okay, sure, but that's very weird.
No, it's completely strange. You've talked to me at length off the podcast about just like, no, everything was founded between like 1600 and 1700.
Well, or like, I mean, post 1900 is unusual in New York.
If I'm in a house that's almost 200 years old, everything here is ancient. What was I gonna say?
Was it that Mayor McCoy is just constitutionally incapable of not sounding suspicious?
That, and why are they picking people for the 75th anniversary celebration specifically from the high school? Aren't there other notable people in this town that could, should, or would be speakers at this event?
Just
also,
high school sophomores.
It's like the day before the Jubilee. Was there no advanced planning? Were they just like, oh, and then there'll be some sort of event? I guess we'll see. TBD.
I do think it's funny that Archie is picked as the best and brightest. I totally get why Betty was picked, but Archie?
Right, and then they're like, Jughead obviously can't speak at the Jubilee. He doesn't even wear a Letterman jacket or a pink sweater. We have an image to maintain.
But it's okay, because Jubilees aren't his thing. He prefers Wolverine. Thank you, the one listener who got that.
I didn't... X-Men references, really? I know we're going here. So, I guess my question was, why is Archie the best and brightest?
It makes more sense after he has saved Cheryl from her drowning scene, but before, it's just a contrivance.
Okay, good. I'm glad that there wasn't something where I'm missing. I'm like, he's not the captain of the football team.
Oh, Reggie should have totally spoken.
That would have been amazing.
But yeah, they pick Archie, and the thing is like, oh, we want you to perform at the Jubilee because you're the best and brightest. But the whole plot is you're going to play with the Pussycats, and you're going to play a Josie and the Pussycats song. So I don't get why Archie was involved in this. It should have just been... Mayor McCoy seems like the person who would say, my daughter's going to play this event with her band.
Yes.
She's the best and brightest. And there's a lot more credence in saying Josie's the best and brightest than Archie.
Yes. It's weird. But yeah, so after that, we start in on Cheryl's suicide plot, which was honestly handled pretty weirdly.
I mean, I had some actual positive notes about her performance, but I'd like to hear your perspective on how this was handled.
It's not anything that was wrong with Madeline Page. It's more just like the scenes they chose to like show and highlight were just like so odd. There's like one random scene pretty close to when she actually tries that she just like lays out her dress from the river and then goes and lies back on bed, but they shoot it in slow-mo and play an upbeat rock song over it, so it seems like a pump-up moment. It's so weird.
That part was weird and incongruent with the rest of it. I thought the like giving Jughead her infamous spider brooch and apologizing to him, that all seemed really consistent with like, oh, that's a major suicide red flag. Like they should call a hotline.
Yeah.
Yes. So I liked that scene that you mentioned, Sarah, as well as previously when she gives up her spot on the River Vixens to Veronica, and she's really composed.
And I wanted to give you this. Your HBIC shirt?
Her not showing emotion was way more effective and emotional than whenever Veronica or Archie tries to emote. Like, we know that Cheryl's going through something, and even though we don't see it spelled out in that scene, it was actually like, this girl's going through some issues. So I liked that stuff, but I agree that scene where she was laying out the white death shroud or whatever was odd for how they shot it and how they soundtracked it.
It's just like I agree that like the muted emotion of Cheryl is like such a red flag and done so well, because anytime she's not being a haughty bitch, we know that there is something wrong.
Also, it is a pretty classic thing that people kind of cheer up right before they make a suicide attempt, because they have sort of made peace with it, like, oh, okay, instead of being miserable forever, I'm just gonna die. And then there's sort of an upturn, so it made sense in a lot of ways.
Like, I've made my decision to shuffle off this mortal coil.
Right.
But that's not advocating suicide as an answer to anything.
No.
Anyway, before we go down that...
Look, suicide is painless, unlike this Archie plot. But no, so Cheryl and Penelope are just like checking out the hanging beam in the Blossom family farm, and Penelope is like, guess we're all just cursed. Maybe someone will kill themselves.
Maybe your father had the right idea. Just end it. Better the sweet hereafter than this awful limbo.
And she's so robotic in this scene. But it apparently convinces Cheryl to like start down the path of like a sad mental slide.
I didn't understand any of what was going on in that scene. Why are they having a memorial in the syrup barn? I mean, is Cliff's body now scattered among the barrels along with the heroin? Like, what is happening?
He's in, oh my gosh, he's in one of the barrels and they can preserve him forever in syrup.
Yep. They just put a new wig on the barrel every day.
Oh my god.
It's like one of those bog mummies where it's like uncannily preserved in peat, but except in syrup.
Exactly.
I kind of want to see this plot now.
This is where I want it to go.
They put the barrel in a rocking chair.
Cheryl just kneels down from it. Daddy, I want to tell you about school today.
Daddy, you're so sweet to me.
Archie goes to Betty and is like, are you really fine? She's like, duh, I'm totally fine. It's like, oh, I just thought that we'd always end up together. And she's like, shut the hell up. I'm with my soulmate.
I like her a lot. She's amazing. But a little part of me always thought...
We're both so lucky, don't you think? To have found the people that we were meant to be with.
When she acknowledges later in the episode that, like, Betty and Jughead are soulmates.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he trying to ruin this for his two best friends?
Because he's a dick.
Because he's the worst.
I'm not over that. They try and make Archie likable sometimes, and then are they aware that he's such a hateable character? Is this on purpose?
I don't think they're aware at all.
I can't tell.
I was going to say, are they trying to stir the pot where they want people and fans of the show to be like, oh, it'd be great if Betty and Archie got together?
Probably. But it's one of those things where, like, it's not wrong for a character to commit bad actions. Like, they need to be fully rounded characters and be interesting. It's just, like, they're not framing any of this as bad. It's something like Sarah and I have talked about with Gilmore Girls, because we've reached the season where Rory's dating who we believe is her worst boyfriend, Logan, and he's just like a constant gaslighting asshole who's like, why do you care that I've slept with so many women? How does this affect you? And it's weird because he's never framed as being wrong, and like Rory Gilmore, whenever she has these conversations with him, always lets it drop by the end. So you're like, are they just kind of excusing these traits?
Yeah, you can't actually tell whether we're supposed to think he's an asshole or not. I don't know.
And that's where we got Archie.
Yeah, he's in that same category of, like, are we supposed to be seeing how bad he is, or did the writer not understand how bad he is? Don't know.
Yeah, I can't answer this. I can only hope that it is revealed to us in time. I think the two more interesting plots for me in this were A, Jughead switching schools, and B, I think where we are now, where Betty is kind of confronting that the town is sweeping under the rug that Cliff Blossom was a drug lord and the
real
FP's
quick,
innocent.
though,
oh yeah.
There is a quick scene of Josie and Archie practicing together, and she says she's impressed by how far he's come since he started songwriting, which again, we're pretty sure in universe it's been a couple weeks. But more importantly, all she has to go on is a piece of sheet music, and who can just like look at a piece of sheet music and be like, wow, this is incredible. I assume some can, but I remember a YouTube video I watched once with a piano teacher explaining how important phrasing is to actual music, which you can't see on sheet music. So for the song, he was playing this song called So Far Away by Carole King, and it's performed like this, da 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 da. But if you were to perform it the way it's written down, sheet music go da 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 da, because that's just how the quarter notes would sound.
See, I don't know. It's like, is she looking at it and saying like, wow, you graduated from 3 chords to 4? I mean,
maybe.
You've learned what a slant rhyme is.
I think it's just that he's finally achieved the multiverse. Instead of just writing one, he wrote many. Good for him.
I can't deal with another Archie song plot showing how little he's developed since episode 1.
Yeah, Josie rightfully shoots his song down. Like, we're performing my songs. Let's face it, I'm better at this.
I would have liked things to just continue down that path. But instead, we find out that although Betty wants to confront the fact that the mayor's sweeping all this stuff under the rug about the true nature of the Blossom clan, her parents don't want her to publish this really good article she wrote because apparently Riverdale now has a vigilante justice problem.
Which apparently it does.
This just happened apparently that day because we've never heard about it before. It's brand new.
But now they're like, oh, people are attacking the Southside Serpents. They want justice. We're supposed to believe there's some sort of like pitchfork mob or like that one Batman movie where there's the impersonators dressing up like him trying to stop crimes.
It's so weird. There are a number of like important things that are happening off screen that would have been way cooler to see.
Like the fact that Kevin Keller's like, the drugs are spreading through the town. Okay,
right.
Like why do we hear about this instead of seeing it?
Or like Cheryl's resignation from the River Vixens. Like, why didn't Veronica just arrive on time and everyone sees this? Like, that would have been great.
It's time for this hothouse flower to be transplanted to some new soil, Vixens.
Scatter, Veronica's bitches.
I can't call you mine anymore. Go away! Don't you see I don't want you here anymore?
She even gives Veronica her head bitch in charge shirt. That's how you know it's true friendship.
And that she's about to try to kill herself.
Yeah, that too.
I've never given up such a prized belonging in life.
I do like how on the ball Veronica is with this. Like, oh my god, Cheryl's behaving like at a baseline decent person level. She's gonna hurt herself.
Uh-huh.
Oh, this is the scene. So she's talking to Betty, and this is where they reference the Bechdel test.
Now that it's just us girls, and at the risk of us failing the Bechdel test, are you legitimately cool with Archie and me?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, we probably already hammered on that, but just, like, being self-referential about how, as a TV show, you're conscious about passing the Bechdel test, like, facing the fourth wall, did not sit well with me.
It's really sad. I haven't ever really thought about the Bechdel test with the show because, you know, they do a good enough job having a bunch of characters and everyone's, like, equally a cardboard cutout. So, like, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think I talked about it in one previous episode of our podcast. I referenced the Bechdel test, and that's possibly why this line stood out to me. Well, while Veronica and Betty are talking about this, Polly walks into the room and says she misses high school gossip and all this stuff and misses being a cheerleader.
Aw, I miss this. Gossiping, doing homework, being a river vixen. Basically just going to school.
Then come back.
Mom doesn't want me to.
Naturally, but what she doesn't know won't hurt her.
My thought was, Polly was a freshman last year. I don't understand how she's 17, because unless she's 17, she's legally mandated to be in school. I don't get why they're talking about it like it's optional.
Yeah, that was my thing too. Are there not truancy laws in Riverdale?
I mean, I think we established that Jason must have been a freshman if he was Cheryl's twin, but Polly could have been older. He could have been dating like a junior.
I guess so. True.
She should be older because Betty is a sophomore and is the younger sister. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the Riverdale writers just do not know what a high school is like.
Right.
Who knows? We don't even know who Polly's real dad is at this point. I'm just going to say.
I do want to point out that she said, like, Betty says, well, go to school. And Polly's like, Mom won't let me. And Betty says, what she doesn't know won't hurt. It's like, how would she miss Polly going to school with you? Like, you all leave at the same time in the mornings.
Polly's just like, I'm just going to go for a walk for 8 hours. Bye, Mom.
See you at 3:15 or 3:30, depending
or thereabouts, you know.
Depending on when the bus drops. I mean, depending on when I get back.
And we also find out that Betty actually did publish her article for the Blue and Gold since her parents shot her down. And I'm a little unclear on how she did that without, like, any input from the faculty advisor, her mother.
Right.
But whatever.
Did Alice just abandon the Blue and Gold because they said she's writing for the Register again? Like, she got hired by the school as a faculty advisor. We were told that the Blue and Gold has a bigger budget than the Register. Did she just quit her job after 2 weeks and go back?
I guess.
That seems like Alice.
They didn't really tie up that loose end for me.
But anyway, now here we are going to the South Side, seeing our friends as we start to ride.
What is that from?
I showed you the Moby song.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know that song?
I didn't know it until Kevin sent it to me last week.
Weird.
But yeah, this is where the caseworker comes in. We find out that Fred is the worst person in the world because he has a DUI. And Archie goes to beg FP to take the plea deal just to help Juggy. But FP is too busy narrating about what's going to happen the rest of the episode.
He'll make it. Especially if you're looking after him. And he'll try to pull away from you. He'll try to disappear into himself. He needs his friends. That's why you and Betty, you gotta stick with him. No matter what. He's got some darkness in him.
What is this speech where he's like, that kid's got some darkness in him? He's sick. He's a twisted little fucker.
Smash cut to Jughead just eating a hamburger. The darkest thing anyone could
He's just
imagine.
munching on a burger, humming a Carly Rae Jepsen song, thinking about his beautiful girlfriend. He's got a lot of darkness, okay?
Oh, but I do like how right after Archie is talking, Effie is like, you gotta, like, be there for him. We just see him hanging out alone and no one is with him.
I haven't talked to him in a couple days.
He says he's at the pariah table and no one will eat with him. And Veronica's like, well, then I'll join for once.
Are you sure you want to sit at the social pariah table?
What was the point of that little scene where she's like trying to make friends with Jughead or something? I mean, it was pretty much thrown away whenever Cheryl comes up and gives Jughead her spider brooch.
I think it was just to set up that Veronica has reason to be worried about Cheryl.
Yeah.
I think that's all it was.
Oh, okay.
It was just a contrivance. But I want to go back to the fact that this town of Riverdale, which has exactly one restaurant, has 2 high schools. I grew up in like a small city in upstate New York that had far more than one restaurant and many places open 24 hours, and there was one high school. I mean, there was like an alternative school, but that doesn't really count. This is clearly a public high school.
Are you sure? It looks a lot more like a prison to me.
Well, yeah.
They light Southside High School the same exact way as the prison. Like, that must have been the director to the gaffer of, like, whatever you did at the prison, just that, but, like, more cold and creepy and casting. Make sure you find kids that look like they've stabbed someone.
I do like, though, that when the gang finds out that Jughead is at a high school, they're like, oh no, like, we gotta save him, which is how I felt when I was in high school, so I appreciated that.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that in a second, but first, Betty's locker gets vandalized, which interrupts any conversation Veronica and Jughead were gonna have, and Go to Hell Serpent Slut has been finger painted in blood on her locker, and I just have to point out, Go to Hell Serpent Slut is also the name of my prog death metal band.
I would listen to that band, is the thing.
That was such an elaborate vandalism.
They put some effort into that. You can tell whoever did it was staying up at night being like, just have to get the effigy perfect.
And it's like the middle of the school day because they were all at lunch. When did this happen? Weatherby needs to run a tighter ship. This is not cool.
There is one badass kid there who, like, listens to Beelzebong and other stoner metal who did this, and I want to be friends with that one.
And this is what motivates Jughead to go to Southside, is like, if I don't go, Betty's locker will be vandalized with pig's blood every day.
Yes. He's like, Betty, I've got to leave. I'm nothing but trouble for you. And they have like a walk through a graveyard while it's snowing.
As one does.
The location work in this show is excellent.
I mean, they're just stealing my date ideas.
And so that brings us to Alice and Betty fighting over the publishing of the article, which leads to Betty asking why her mother can't just be open and honest, which Alice apparently takes to heart and just starts spilling everything about, the fight she and Hal had way back at their homecoming, and how she gave birth to a son and gave him up to the Sisters of Mercy.
Several things. First of all, Alice finds this out just because Polly snitches, which means she needs to take some lessons from FP.
Yeah.
She goes to school one day and comes back and spills the beans to her mom. And then Alice says that giving up her first child for adoption was her biggest regret in life, and yet she was totally cool with her daughter doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's not consistently written, but I do like the emotionality that she has in the scene. I think it's, like, really powerful.
Yes.
Yeah, it's well acted nonsense, for sure.
It's more impressive for being nonsense and being well acted, I feel, because anyone, well, maybe not anyone, not Veronica or Archie can act a scene that makes sense, but to act a scene that doesn't make sense in an emotional manner, that feels like it takes talent.
Yeah, I mean, it was a well acted scene, but it's really strange hey, we're just going to reveal now that Betty has a brother. I guess they're setting things up for future seasons and episodes and really just, getting us hooked for more. I don't know where this is going to go. Like, what does it matter that she has a 20-something-year-old brother?
Maybe it's Joaquin. Oh, no.
Yes. The clearly Latino guy is the son of blonde Aryan Alice and Hal.
I mean, well, this actually gets into a part of the show that was cut, but we actually learned that Alice hasn't always been faithful to Hal. She really took Betty's advice to be honest and open to heart, and, well, there was this scene that was cut where she just lays out everything that happened Unfortunately, I couldn't find clips of it, but I did find the original script, so maybe we could give that a cold read.
Definitely.
Sure.
Who's playing what part?
Well, I've got Alice, Betty, and Hal, so who wants what?
My gut reaction was to say Alice, but that's the worst decision for me. I just tried to sit here quietly, like, don't say the first thing that comes to mind.
Do you want to be Hal? Does anyone ever want to be Hal?
I will be Hal. I feel like I've channeled...
Okay.
I really channeled him and felt like kinship with him whenever we had that karaoke performance.
I feel like I've been Betty a couple of times.
Be Alice.
Yeah.
I'll be Betty.
I don't want to be typecast. Good morning, sunshine. Isn't the world a bright and beautiful place?
Aw, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?
Oh, Elizabeth, I'm better than ever. Now that you've convinced me to share nothing but the truth, I feel free to live my life as never before.
Morning, girls.
Oh, my husband, the love of my life who's never actually satisfied me sexually, not even the night he knocked me up at age 17.
Alice!
I'm just trying to be open. This is self-care, free expression. Oh, that reminds me, Betty. I should probably tell you about your brothers and sisters.
Oh, what?
Like I said, Hal never satisfied me, so I had to find my thrills elsewhere. Pretty much anyone but a Blossom, or, of course, that awful Luke Perry. There was Mr. Mantle, then Mr. Muggs, Miles McCoy, and, obviously, Principal Weatherby. That man is a real fox.
Mr. Mantle? Oh God, is Reggie my...
I honestly can't remember. Let me tell you, the drugs they give you to get through pregnancy are a miracle. And the kid was adopted before I woke up.
This is a hardly appropriate conversation for breakfast. For God's sake, I haven't even had my heroin-laced maple syrup.
I never thought I'd say this, but secrets and lies are starting to sound so much better now than they did yesterday.
Fine. Your brother Kevin is not nearly this snippy with me.
Kevin Keller? Ew, he's seen me in my underwear.
Wait, how can you have so many kids that are all the same age as Betty? Isn't that impossible?
Well, long story short, I made a pact with satanic forces and, well, these things just happen when you're endowed with black magic by the Gargoyle King.
This is all your fault, Betty. I told you furtiveness and deception were for the best, but you wanted a mother who was honest.
I'm so sorry, Dad. Mom, please, let's go back to secrecy and lies.
All right, but only because you're my 6th favorite daughter.
6th? No, I'm just letting that one slide. Pass the syrup, Dad? I hear there's a new MDMA flavor from the Blossom Farms. It's all the rage. So yeah.
There might be a lot more siblings out there.
Yeah, I can see why they cut it, though. Like, Gargoyle King, I don't know where that came from. This is also random. That can't be, like, a real thing they were thinking of. This is obviously a prank someone has pulled on us.
Definitely.
Yeah, this is a fake script from somewhere. But, entertaining all the same. And maybe there is a lot more tread on the tires when it comes to this plot with Betty having siblings spread out all over the goddamn place.
Possibly. I just have to say, the most unbelievable part about Hal and Alice fighting at homecoming is I find it impossible to believe Hal was ever crowned for anything.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like the most likable guy. Every time I see him, he looks like a retired football player who's now just like doing the announcing at a game or like before the game on ESPN.
Mm-hmm. And all he ever talks about is how great he was before he blew out his knee.
Yeah.
He's
like
that guy.
Yeah, that's all I can ever think of when I see him. Okay, so Cheryl continues to break down, and her mom is the biggest jerk about it. Whenever Cheryl's like, "Can I stay home today?" And her mom's like, "Excuse me, just because your father committed suicide?" As she prepares to leave, like, what is she doing, first of all? And second, like, wouldn't the cops be questioning Penelope about the fact that her husband was running a drug empire?
In most cities, sure, but Kevin Keller's pretty sure he's got other leads. I mean, Sheriff Keller's pretty sure he's got other leads.
Oh, yeah. He's still questioning Mustang in the morgue.
Why won't you talk? Oh, taking the fifth, I see. We got a tough guy here.
Give me the names.
I thought him like backhanding a cold gray corpse. I'll start opening these drawers and talking to your friends. All you guys in here plotting, sharpening your knives. I see them on the table.
You know, in some sheriff jurisdictions, the sheriff doubles as the head coroner. It's like an official position. So maybe Sheriff Keller really does think that, like, he has the power to interrogate corpses.
Maybe.
Oh my god, yeah. So Penelope's clearly just off the hook with this whole thing.
It seems like she's trying to deliberately drive Cheryl to suicide, but it's also hard to tell because her acting in this episode is so robotic that it's just like it's hard to know what she means or wants.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's already been established that she knew that her husband killed her son and didn't really care and was willing to help cover it up. So the idea that she's a sociopath is like, well, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. Either she's grieving in a really, really strange way or she has no emotions.
Yeah.
But we got everyone's favorite story development. Jughead decides to go to Southside High.
Yeah. Who could have guessed that Jughead would try to pull away? That he had a little bit of darkness in him and that Betty and Archie would have to keep him close for his own good.
Thank God we have FP explaining character traits and motivations throughout this show.
Yeah, I love the scene where Betty and Archie and Veronica rush to save him because when Jughead gets surrounded by the Southside High students, I realized on a rewatch it was supposed to signal that there could be trouble. But the kids are so devoid of menace, and Jughead reacts with such mild interest that nothing about the scene registered as threatening.
One of them steals a french fry from him, which is like, I mean, the most threatening you can get without taking someone's cherry.
Yeah. I've seen more menace when it came to someone stealing fries in Friends when someone would steal Joey's food than in this episode.
My thought was the Southside High kids look way cooler than the Riverdale kids. None of them are wearing cardigans. They have like cool high top shoes and alternative hair colors. Southside High seems way more chill to me.
They seem so relaxed and cool. Like Jughead is already like easily making jokes with a group of like 10.
Yeah, like he's making friends. These people are way more accepting than everyone at Riverdale who looked down on him like he was trash.
I did like that when the Riverdale High kids like burst into the school, like apparently the guards are just like off duty now, like, oh, you guys are white and normal, just go on through.
They run through a metal detector that in a previous scene we'd shown every kid getting like scanned and wanded like they're going through airport security. Betty and Archie just scamper through.
Well, he has a Letterman jacket. She's wearing a pink sweater. It's fine.
Veronica has like an Armani bag that she's like holding up as like identification.
Veronica is dressed like a vice principal as always, so it's fine.
And they pull Jughead out. And my favorite shot in this entire episode is when they pull Jughead out of the school so he and Betty can talk. And they open up outside with some high school kid skating by, wearing the helmet like a fucking nerd. And I'm like, that's the kid everyone at Southside's gonna make fun of and tear into shreds. Jughead's gonna be just fine.
Yeah. And they have a pretty heartwarming conversation about how they're gonna stay together and care for each other. Meanwhile, Archie leers at Betty like a fucking predator while Veronica's like, do you think they're soulmates?
But he seems like in this scene, he's about to tell her, like, I'm not really into you. Like, he's on the verge of that before Veronica gets a text.
Yeah, later he plays it off like, no, I was just thinking how I want to be your Jughead.
When we were at Southside High, you were looking at Betty and Jughead, I don't know, wistfully.
Wistfully?
Longingly. Like, you liked Betty.
I do. I always will. As friends. The moment you're talking about, I was seeing Betty and Jughead, and I was seeing how good they were. And it confirmed how I've been feeling this last week. I want to be that for you.
But that's totally not what it looked like. If that's what they were going for, if that's what he was really thinking, I mean, I just think it's a lie.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
He just is like, I can't tell her the truth. I gotta get it in. Like, so he tells her what she wants to hear, and he just seems like twice the asshole. But that Veronica gets a text from Cheryl, who's like, I'm going to be with Jason now.
And the thing I found kind of funny about this is everyone's like, where would she go to be with Jason? Everyone's like, Sweetwater River. And it's like, he's buried, like, on their plot. There are so many other places she could be in order to be with Jason.
The basement of the White Worm. I mean, lots of choices.
I want a scene of Cheryl walking into the White Worm and, like, a whole plot where she becomes a Southside Serpent. FP's out of the picture. They need a new boss. And she can say scatter bitches to all.
Great.
She would be a perfect gang leader. But no, I mean, she could just go into that basement, put herself in that freezer. They never would have found her, apparently, because they were barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, they catch her just in time as she's trying to break through the ice, and they convince her not to, and then, of course, dramatically, she falls through anyway.
Yes. So then she's trapped under ice.
And all the kids immediately, even though they were really nervous about going on the ice before, just start running on it. I thought it would have been pretty great if just everyone had fallen in the river and died, and then it was like the end.
We start over with just like Kevin Keller as the main character trying to put back together a friend group.
Trying to find Joaquin, who went off on a bus, and it becomes like a on-the-road tale of Kevin Keller's trip across America.
I mean, he deserves more scenes than he gets.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Instead, we've got this dramatic, Cheryl fell through the ice, the current's taken hold of her, so she's underneath it, and Archie starts punching his way through it in order to save her.
And this is the thing I was referencing last episode, where KJ Apa did actually break his hand filming this scene.
I thought it was from the scene where he was playing guitar.
Oh, that too.
But,
yeah.
Okay, so how did he break his hand? Did they really have him punch through ice?
I guess.
I was watching this like it must have been like a plexiglass, and
he's a method actor. He's like, I have to really punch through ice, otherwise it won't feel real. But yeah, he then pulls Cheryl out, gives her mouth-to-mouth and chest compressions, presumably all while telling Veronica he's totally thinking about her while he's doing this.
I'm not enjoying this at all, Veronica. My hands are supposed to go to each side of the chest when you do chest compressions.
This is all for you. I'm just scared of how much I love you, you know?
I'm thinking about how I wish that I could be giving mouth-to-mouth to you right now. And then once Cheryl is saved, Veronica takes her home to warm up and recover, which is sweet.
And Hermione's a real turd about this. Whenever she sees Cheryl in the house, she's like, oh, what's that bitch doing here?
Yeah, seriously. Don't care that she almost drowned and is freezing to death. Kick her ass out.
The Hermione character whiplashes between being halfway decent and being just malevolent on a week-by-week basis.
I found that she's unequivocally good.
Thank you, Smithers.
It's like Archie, though, where I can't tell whether they are doing it on purpose or not. Like, are we supposed to be wavering on her, or did they just forget that we're watching? I don't know.
I mean, I just tend to zone out whenever it's Hermione and Veronica in a scene. So I'm more just like, they're doing something. It's not going to matter in the grand scheme. Hermione could disappear the next episode, and I would probably not notice.
Oh, yeah, you could completely cut both of them out of the show, and I don't think it would have any bearing on the plot.
Not at all.
Yeah, sadly. So then we go to the Jubilee, and Archie sadly somehow broke his guitar playing hand. He really should have punched with the other one.
He should have stomped through the ice. But then he couldn't have done a Mumford & Sons cover.
Oh. Yeah, he and Veronica have a heart-to-heart, and that he seriously has the fucking worst all-time great douchebag line of, I was only looking at her because she makes me want to be that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
And Josie, out of gratitude for Archie saving Cheryl, is like, we'll play your song.
And Val's just there in the background, dressed like Sergeant Pepper or Gerard Way circa Black Parade. And how is she feeling with, like, Veronica is still, like, kind of a pussycat because she performs with them, but she walks in on her ex-boyfriend making out with her bandmate.
And then her band leader is like, by the way, he's in charge of this now. Go to hell, Val.
And she has to play her ex's song.
Well, but she gets to sing co-lead on the bridge, though, so it's worth it.
We will never let that die.
What the hell does that mean? What's co-lead on the... That's just like you're doing a vocal harmony?
Yeah.
I guess.
Can you be? Who knows? I don't know. I'm a terrible singer, so I'm not gonna make any comments about singing. For all I know, you can do co-lead on the bridge.
And then the song is terrible. Luckily, we only hear like 20 seconds of it.
Yes. Thank you for not making us listen to the whole thing like last time. Thank you, Riverdale writers.
Let's not thank them too profusely. They were the ones who put it in to begin with.
True. We had to hear a few seconds, and I was trying to like find the description for it, and it was kind of like, oh, there's a Michael Bublé Christmas album, and they put on like one original song because they like the rest of it was covers, and it's kind of the track you always skip. Like even your aunt who's into Michael Bublé skips it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never related more to anything in my life.
That's what this song sounds like. It's awful. It's really, really sappy and bad.
But you know it's not sappy and bad? Jughead and FP saying their goodbyes, and Jughead being like, don't worry, I'll be fine.
I really think it's great of Sheriff Keller to have an open door policy for his jail. Just like anyone can visit at any time unsupervised. It's totally fine. No worries.
Visiting hours? Oh, I'm gonna be in the morgue then questioning suspects. Yes, I left the keys out. There's some root beer in the fridge. Make yourself at home. Don't mess with my murder board.
Still haven't caught who murdered Jason, but I'll get there.
Someday.
Still working on that Jason Blossom case, you know.
I'm questioning Cliff as we speak. We'll see.
Let me tell you, he has me in a bind with his silence, but... Ooh.
Oh, going purple on me, buddy. Oldest trick in the book.
What a nuisance.
Damn it, that's so good.
Even when you're sick, nothing can stop the puns.
But yeah, so Betty makes her speech about how Riverdale's corrupt, and everyone claps because Jughead, like, spurred them on by arriving in time.
What a great speech, too. What is Riverdale?
I totally
Webster's Dictionary defines Riverdale as a sexy teen horror show.
I totally want her to do that awful cliche. I also think, like, this scene reminds me of those obviously fake stories you read online of, like, so then I told everyone the truth that they couldn't handle. And you know what happened next? They all clapped.
Yeah, totally. Also, like, they keep trying to present Riverdale as, like, everyone was so innocent and it was so shiny and clean, like it was Pleasantville or like Hot Fuzz, like creepy, nice town. But they never present that other than being like, there's a soda shop.
Yeah.
You need a bit more.
That's a really good point. I think from the first episode of this show, it opened with just like, okay, everything's pretty clean. Except there's like Jason Blossom's missing. We never really got like, hey, it's got a really nice facade, but there's hints of darkness. We were just like murder mystery. So we don't have a context of, oh yeah, things were perfect. We have a context of Alice Cooper was giving away her firstborn child, and there was the Southside Serpents, which have been established for years. So this town never seemed like it was perfect.
Not in any way.
Yeah, it seems like they're just relying on people to not pay that close of attention and just like lean back on pretty surface level tropes that they're not even like showing us.
Wow, that doesn't sound like Riverdale at all.
It's not like Cliff Blossom just got into drug running, like, because he was going through a rough time after his son died. He'd been doing this for ostensibly decades.
Well, as soon as his hair turned silver, he was like, my whole life is upside down now. I need something to cling on to.
You know, you're just getting those midlife heroin dealing crises.
Totally.
Yeah, you know what they say about Cliff Blossom? He was born with a silver spoon over a candle.
That's beautiful.
Excellent.
There's my best joke. I just came up with it. That wasn't in my notes.
Hooray! So the gang celebrates with a milkshake and pops and quotes season 1 of Heroes out of nowhere.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, save the cheerleader, save the world.
That's the one with like Hayden Panettiere and Michael Chiklis? Or is that...
No, yeah, it is. And Milo Ventimiglia. It is a show where the first season was very strong, and then it is best not to speak of what happened later.
I don't think Riverdale will have that problem.
No.
The first season wasn't strong.
They can't have that problem.
It was surprising. Like, I wasn't expecting, like, a show that pretty much everyone agrees like fell off really quickly to be quoted 10 years after the fact.
I've never seen a second of it. I vaguely remember there being commercials for it back in the day, but
I've actually never seen it either. I just know Save the Cheerleader, Save the World because I felt like it was so omnipresent that first season. It seemed like everyone was talking about Heroes.
I thought the cheerleader was the one saving the world.
She did. And so I stopped watching because it turned out they made the character that I thought that Hayden Panettiere was going to hook up with her uncle. And I was like, oh, that's bad. Mm-hmm. And I recognized that he was too old for her. But they also dated in real life. It was just all very disappointing.
That's so weird.
Yeah, Milo Ventimiglia likes the young girls.
Okay, wait. Milo Ventimiglia is a person and not just like a microorganism?
Yes, he plays Jess on Gilmore Girls.
He plays one of the main characters in that sad show that everyone was talking about a couple years ago. Yes.
Yes.
He sounds like a type of like subatomic creature that moves via its flagellum.
Yeah, that's him. You got it.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look this guy up. He's probably like really handsome, and
he's pretty handsome.
And I'm just like making fun of this Adonis.
While you type that up, the gang celebrates with milkshakes at Pops.
Oh yeah, this dude's fucking hot.
And Jughead says, "We had many milkshakes that night, and in the morning there were hundreds of boys in the yard."
We had many milkshakes that night, and we all felt that as dangerous as the world around us had become, here, at least, in this booth, we were safe.
I hope that milkshakes are still symbolic for the show because Jughead is drinking a strawberry one, which I think heavily implies that he's only got eyes for Archie.
Or that he's a blossom. Could go either way.
Much like Jughead, if my reading is correct.
Wait, I did not have any notes on this scene, did I?
It's not like a lot happens. It's kind of just like, oh, a little wrap up, we did good, woo, and then Cheryl burns down Thornhill.
And so that's where I had more notes, where they have this dramatically lit scene, and Penelope comes in and it's like, like, what are you doing with that fire, my dear? And why does everything smell like gas? Also, why does Cheryl burn down Thornhill? I guess it's just kind of badass. I guess they're going for like is it Poe who always had like the weird decayed grand families who like live in twisted manners? Right. I'm trying to think of the story that like definitely hammers on that.
That sounds like Fall of the House of Usher.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Sounds like all of them, really.
Yeah.
Fall of the House of Usher, followed by the sequel, My Confessions of the House of Usher.
Confessions Part 2. Yeah.
Thornhill goes up in flames, so there goes the Winter Salon.
You're right that Cheryl's motivations, like, I'm not clear on them either, but she's also gone through a hard time and is, like, in not mentally a great place, so it's not too weird to me that the suicidal person is just like, okay, water didn't work, maybe fire.
Yeah, and she's definitely unhinged. We've already had that established, so I'm okay with this. I'm not cool with them burning down the best set on the show.
No, and I also am not cool with no one in Cheryl's life being like, sweetie, maybe let's take you to the hospital and get a psych eval real quick and make sure that you're not a harm to yourself or others. Thanks.
I mean, she is a harm to herself.
She clearly is. She just tried to kill herself very dramatically. I think maybe you don't just like send her home unsupervised to a house with a murdery lady. Like, let's not do that.
Veronica kind of was like, oh yeah, like call yourself an Uber, go home.
Right.
Instead of,
see you later.
Yeah, they could have done a little bit more, but hey, I'm cool with her setting herself on fire just because it's badass.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it as well, but bad friend move.
And speaking of harm to yourself and others, Veronica's seduction of Archie.
Oof.
Ooh. Veronica says, come on in. And I just know the way they spelled that in the script was not the way you'd spell in English class.
The actual appeal of Archie and Veronica getting hot and heavy versus Jughead and Betty, it was a little sad.
Yeah, the paralleling really
doesn't play well.
I'm not sure we want Archie and Veronica together anyway, but contrasting them with Betty and Jughead, who we do want together, like, it was so much worse by comparison. Because, like, Jughead and Betty have this really sweet scene where he tells her he loves her for the first time, and then they're just like, time for some rough kitchen sex.
It felt like we've been building up to this for a while. There's been foreplay for Jughead and Betty hooking up, and they're dating, and with Veronica and Archie, it just feels like a shallow hookup. Because neither of them are very deep-seeming characters.
Though it is funny to me that, like, while Jughead and Betty are being adventurous, Veronica and Archie, who I think are supposed to be more sexually experienced characters, like, let's do it in the bedroom with the lights off.
Right.
Oh, and we've hit peak KJ appetitis. Everyone is shirtless.
Yes.
Archie, Veronica, Betty, Jughead.
All of the serpents. Hot dog.
Hot dog. But she tells Archie to be quiet, and I just want him to be like, that's a bit of a problem because I just scream loudly every time I climax.
Oh, I also have to say the music in this sex scene is awful. Like, they play an Imagine Dragons song, Believer, and it's so unsexy.
This actually, so the first time I watched this, I think was like the first time I'd ever heard the song, because it was when that was a new song.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really dislike it then I heard it a lot more times.
Yeah, Imagine Dragons gets a lot of shit for being the new worst thing in music. Like, they definitely usurped Nickelback's throne there, and it's deserved.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't hate everything about them. I really do appreciate what the lead singer dude has done in terms of trying to bring a gay-friendly vibe to the Mormon subculture. Like, he's been very vocal about being, like, an LDS person who is also pro-gay rights.
Oh,
and I think that's cool.
I had no
Now,
idea.
the music, on the other hand.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing.
Yeah, and Jughead and Betty get interrupted by the entirety of the Southside Serpents coming to knock on his door.
But they give him a sick Southside Serpent leather jacket.
Yeah. He just gives up on sex to put on a leather jacket.
I mean, they play it like Betty is horrified, but I just want the next line she says to be like, Juggy, get back in here and do me in that jacket.
Yeah.
Because he looks great. Like,
Apparently
I don't know what
they
the
didn't
problem
go back
is.
to having sex after this, though, which is weird.
I know.
Okay, because that was my thing. He
just got even sexier.
Exactly.
What do you want, Betty?
Like, your horniness levels should have just, like, gone up tenfold. He looks super cool in that leather jacket.
Yeah, he does.
The whole scene is just baffling. Like, so we know the serpents came because, like, they're happy FP didn't snitch. They're like, we're going to take care of you. But first, you got to be a serpent. And then Jughead and Explode was like, sure, I could be a serpent.
Sure, I'll join a gang. Why not?
And then Betty's like, no sex now that he's cool and badass.
The serpents came at the expense of Jughead and Betty.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Archie, like, completing the trifecta of perfect dickish behavior, is, like, sneaking out the door on Veronica in the morning.
Dude, that was definitely a dick move. And he tries to play it off when she wakes up, like, trying not to wake you.
I just care about you so much. That's all the same.
I just couldn't bring myself to wake you up. But I also took, like, the $30 that were in your purse. I used your phone to call Lyft. So, you can take care of that, though.
Yeah. And then that brings us to Luke Perry getting shot at Pops, and that's the end of the episode. We did it. Season 1.
We survived season 1. Oh my god. Where do we go now? Can we top ourselves?
Good question. I guess let's do predictions and scores and cringy lines and then figure out what happens next.
Predictions. Jughead and Betty have to, like, consummate at some point.
Yes, they have to, for my well-being.
If Archie can get it in on a regular basis, Jughead and Betty deserve to, express their love in a physical manner.
I can't say anything because I watched enough of season 2 to know things about this.
Damn, okay. Well,
I'm going to predict that Archie not being over Betty and all that awfulness will continue well past the point it should into season 2.
Yes. I predict so. Luke Perry gets shot, and this gives Archie a reason to actually be involved in a plot. So I guess season 2 is going to just be him moving to Chicago to be with his mom, since he has no reason to be in Riverdale anymore.
I'm going to predict that... I'm going to predict that Jughead will be thoroughly divorced from the rest of the cast. Southside High will just turn to like the set of Oz. And those like daily prison beatings and Jughead trying to figure out how to escape.
If he became like a small-time crime lord who like starts dealing drugs around the school and doing all these other things and like being a serpent on the inside, getting initiated into the gang, that'd be a legitimately cool storyline to follow. How a youth is brought into gang culture.
Yeah.
He renames himself Thughead.
Oh my god, yes. Meanwhile, Archie becomes that kid who tells people he's from Chicago, but he's really from like Elgin or someplace right outside of Chicago.
Completely.
And Betty needs to become, she has her dark side. If Jughead becomes a serpent, she could unleash her dark side and become a cool biker chick with him.
She's got so many black wigs ready to go.
Oh yeah. She could syrup so many people.
That's all I've got for predictions. Scores, 4 out of 5 interrupted sexual encounters.
I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 just because I like the fact that now the S on Jughead's shirt also matches the S on his cool Southside Serpents jacket.
Yeah.
I'll give this 4 out of 5 ice punches.
Do we have a wrap up or?
Oh yeah, we kind of forgot to do the wrap up for a while, haven't we?
A lot of stuff happened.
Yeah.
And you heard most of it earlier.
So that's it for this episode. We'll be back next week to discuss what we're going to do for our next season of this show, because we're not sure if we're going to continue on with Riverdale. We're not a Riverdale podcast. We're a discussion of all silly TV shows. Maybe we'll continue discussing Riverdale. Maybe we won't. We're going to talk about it, and you'll get to hear about it on our next episode. So until then, thank you for listening to Gritty Reboot. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, leave a review because it really helps us grow.
Yeah, tell people about the podcast.
In the meantime, you can reach us on Twitter at Gritty Reboot Pod or by Gmail at grittyrebootpodcast@gmail.com. You can check out our website, grittyrebootpodcast.com, for info about the show, past episodes, and upcoming news. We look forward to seeing you next time.